You're listening to She's the Business podcast. Why do some people with tens or even hundreds of thousands of people in their audience find it hard to sell anything, while others who have just hundreds or a couple of thousand very successful, and even seven-figure business owners, with under 5,000 people in their list? Yes. What is the difference? And that's exactly what you're going to find out in today's episode, because those people who are making the sales easily, it's not about the size of their audience at all. It's the fact that they've got the right people in it. And we're going to dive into this topic. You're going to learn all about it coming right up. So please stay tuned. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. So today I wanted to talk to you all about how to reach the right people to grow your audience. Now, if you've been in business for any amount of time at all and you've been trying to grow an audience and finding it hard, or maybe you're getting people in there who aren't buyers, you'll know that it's not as easy as it sounds. First of all, I wanted to backtrack a moment and just talk for a minute about why we're even doing this. Why do we want to grow an audience in the first place? And this is a great question, because if you're similar to me in that you were born in the previous century, so in the 1990s, 80s or 70s, I was a 70s child, then you'll be familiar with how things used to be. Back in the days, and in my earliest marketing jobs in the 90s, the audience was just the world, everybody. People did marketing. They were doing TV, they were doing outdoor advertising, they were doing print advertising. It was very much focused mass market. So it was just sort of getting your stuff out there for people to see it as much as possible. And hopefully the right people are seeing it and then they're coming and buying. So it was very much just like shouting at the world, really. And it wasn't targeted, wasn't specific, not segmented. And often, I'm talking in general terms, of course, there were times where we might choose to advertise in something that was slightly more targeted, like the in-flight magazine for the business class lounge on an airline. But the majority of the bigger businesses were literally just putting their stuff out there for everybody. And the market, or the audience, was just anybody out there, the whole world. We want everyone to be a buyer. So people had a very loose idea of what an audience was or why they need it. And even those that had email lists, we often were using them for customer communications and not as much for marketing. It was more like what you need to be sending to customers and far less targeted marketing happening through the email. And that did definitely start to grow in the 2000s when people started to click on to, hang on a minute, we've got a ready-made group of buyers right here who've already bought from us. Well, we can leverage that list. But this is really quite relatively new, although you may not think it now because we're so used to having marketing come to us via email. But really, in the whole scheme of things, this is quite a new concept. So it brings me to, what is an audience and why do you need one? There's a real difference between a market and an audience. The market is simply the people out there. And I always advise people narrowing down the market so it's not just literally everybody and you're putting something out there for who knows who to see, but actually getting specific. Well, who is your market? So this is about your niche, finding your niche in the market. Once you know that, of course, it's so much easier to know who you're speaking to and where to place things so that those people will see it. But that is your market. Now, an audience are people who have decided to take a first step and actually connect with you. So an audience are where they're connected to you. Maybe it's via your social media, maybe it's via your podcast if you have a podcast. It could be via a number of different platforms, and yes, your email list as well. So if somebody has subscribed to your email list, they're in your audience. So your audience is really a subset of the market that you're playing in. And this episode is about, well, how do you get the right people into your audience? And that is a great question. So let's even break that down. We've talked about what an audience is. Now, the other key part of that question is the right people. Who are the right people? Do you know who they are? It's really difficult to set an intention to bring the right people into your audience if you don't define who the right people are, because it leaves you, again, with a completely open slate as to, well, how are you going to reach the right people? We can't build a plan to reach the right people until we've defined who the right people are. The right people for you aren't going to be the same as the right people for somebody else. So this is a very personalized process that you go through in defining who it is that you want to have in your audience. Now, you'll know whether you're having the right people in there or not, because if they're not the right people in your audience, then they're not buying your stuff. Sometimes we can have an audience of people who like us. They might know us, like us, trust us, but they're not buying. Well, if you're running a business, then they're not the right audience for you. Even though they might know you, they might like you. If they're not buying, they're not your audience. They are advocates, they're fans, whatever you want to call it, and they're great to have, but they don't help you have a successful business. So the right audience for you, the right people in your audience are people who are going to buy from you. They're people who, yes, know you and get to know you through, you sharing some content. They're people who grow to like you. Yes, they're people who learn to trust you through all of that. But the important piece is that they also have a desire for what it is that you provide. They have a desire for the outcome that you help people to achieve. They have a need or a will or a purpose. They are wanting to invest in solving that problem that they're experiencing right now. So they have a need or a desire to buy from. And maybe it's not just you, it could be the need or desire to solve that problem and you're one of the potential solutions, great. But they need to have that need or they're not the right people in your audience. And, if you go filling up your audience with just other people like you, you're like-minded, you enjoy the same stuff, you like the funny memes that you're sharing, great. But if you're spending all your time doing that, and then wondering why your business isn't successful because, I've got thousands of people following me. They love my posts. They've got such good engagement. Well, none of that's worth anything if they're not actually buying from you. And that's why it's so important to take this step back and not just look at, well, I need more people in my audience or how many people have you got? And even looking at, engagement and how many people are liking and commenting, as so many do, to gauge whether somebody has got a good audience or not. They're like, wow, they've got lots of people commenting. Well, I would say that's great. And how many people are buying? Now you might sit there and think, okay, Jess, but they need to be engaging and, enjoying the content before they buy to a certain degree. But some people may literally just be like-minded. They might be enjoying your content, engaging with it, commenting on it, and have never got any intention of buying. In which case, they're great people to have in your audience because they're advocates and they're helping you to build that brand. They're helping you to feel like you're actually talking to somebody when you're engaging. That's wonderful. But if we can have that and have them buying from you as well, then that is what we're really looking for. So we're trying to attract buyers into the audience. That means that we need to get clear on the profiling. Like, what does a buyer really look like? Most of what I see out there when people are doing their profiling, they're either sort of basing it on themselves, like, well, who am I? And my ideal buyer is someone just like me. And they're usually thinking about the characteristics of this person, what sort of age they are, what type of family, household environment they have, where they live, what they do, those types of things, even their values. And that's great. That's kind of your surface level. But what I want you to do to uncover, well, who are the buyers? Let's go a step deeper than that. I want you to think about what is it that people are struggling with that is what you solve. What is that outcome that you get for them? So you want people who they're on the other side of the gap. There's a gap there that you're helping them bridge. So what does it mean when they're on that other side? Why do they want to get across to your side? What is that going to bring them? What does that mean for them? And from that, you're going to uncover the real values that are important to them. Because we might say, well, I've got values of all sorts of things. I value integrity and I value connection. I value honesty and lots of values that we can have, but they're not things that are causing me to want to buy something. So what is it that they value that creates the desire for them to invest in bridging the gap from where they are now to where you know that they can be? Those are the values that are really important for you to understand for your marketing and your branding, because this is what is going to ultimately be driving the sale when you can tap into the right values. The other ones are fantastic just for that personal connection, having that real brand connection, an emotional connection with someone that you're like-minded, but they're not causing their need to or desire to solve the problem unless we're tapping into the values they have for what outcome they're looking for. Why do they want that? What is it going to bring to them? So look at that. What are their desires? And it doesn't need to be really any more complicated than that. I'm not going to give you a whole raft of things to go and do, but if you can ask yourself that one question, where do they want to get to? Why do they want to get there? Sorry, that's not one question. It's probably about three. So where do they want to get to? Question one. Why do they want to get there? Question two. And what does that mean for them? What is that value? What does that bring them? Therefore, what is that value that they hold so dearly, which is why they desire that outcome? If you can uncover that, then you have a really good idea of, okay, this is what is driving that person to take action. Apply that with what life stage the people are at that you most want to work with, what characteristics and other values, personality types make them a good fit for you. And you're going to be much closer to identifying who's the right person to have in your audience. So when you know who the right person is, the audience that you're trying to build, where is the audience that you're trying to build? Let's specify that first, because we need to know all of this stuff before you start looking at how to build your audience. And when I look around at most professionals out there who've got businesses, we're entrepreneurs, came from a professional background, you're usually quite smart and action orientated. And I see a lot of the time jump straight into the doing. So you're like, how do I do this? How do I build an audience? And, one person's over there saying, well, you've got to be on Instagram. Another person's saying, well, you've got to do Facebook or TikTok or whatever. There's a million different things that you can do for marketing, right? They're off busily, following all this great advice they're getting and doing all of that, but they haven't started with the core questions of, well, who's the right audience? Who are the right people to have in the audience? And where do I want to actually build my audience? Like, where do I want them in the first place? Where do I want to engage with people? What do I want that to look like? Because if we're trying to build an audience that's scattered all over, then we're going to end up with little pieces of audience here and there. Whereas when you can align your audience platform with you, what you love, your values, how you love to communicate, how you like to connect and share, then you can build an audience much faster because you have the energy, you've got the alignment, you've got that connection with it that you really need to be successful at it. So where do you want to build your audience? What makes sense for you? What feels like a good idea for you? Once you've got that core platform, of course, you can expand into other places and you can choose to spread yourself more thinly if you like, but you really don't need to because you've got your core platform. So it's more on because you want to try something new, because you want to expand your reach into another platform, that you choose to do that. But always start with one. Know what is your core platform. So if at any time someone says to you, well, where can we find you? You're not thinking, oh, which one do I tell them? Do I reel off a whole list of places they can find me? Or do I say, bang, come to Instagram. That's where I'm hanging out all the time. You'll find me at Jessica.Osborne. That's my handle on Instagram. So I always have one main platform that I'm using to connect with people. And Instagram is my main social media platform. And my podcast, what you're listening to right now, is becoming my main platform. So we're getting up to 100 episodes, which is really exciting. I've loved having this podcast. And, my vision is that my podcast becomes my main platform for communication very soon. Of course, I'm still going to be showing up on my social media. That's part of my mix, but I always have one main platform because that gives me focus. It gives me direction. It gives me the ability to build strategy because I know where I'm bringing people to and why, and where do they want to go next. Well, of course, I've got to help them. I've got to show them where to go next. I don't just dump them somewhere and then let them figure it out themselves because, think about it. If you've ever been to somebody's website and there's no clear pathway of where you should go next, it's unlikely you spend very long looking around or that you figure it out. You're looking to be given the signpost. You're looking to be told, hey, do this now, book this in, or go here for this. We want that because we've got a lot. Our brains are doing a lot of thinking all the time. Anytime that we can remove the thinking, make it easier for people, they love it and they do take the action because we've made it easy for them. Now, I've gone off down a little bit of a tangent there and really started talking about your customer experience, about conversion strategy. Yes, it all dials into it, but this is why we create a strategy to attract the right people into the audience. So now it brings us back to how. Now we know where is the audience platform. We know what audience we want to build. We know who we want in it. Now we can start to look at, well, how do we get those people into this audience platform? So now you can look at, okay, well, what pathways can I create to get people to my main audience platform? So how could I get some visibility, awareness, and recognition outside of my own stuff, outside of my own platforms? Or how could I link maybe a secondary one to the main one so that I'm bringing everyone I want into my audience on my main platform? There's quite a lot of different ways that you can do this. And the beauty of this type of strategy is you can start doing this right from the very beginning before you've got the audience. Okay, so the one downside to social media is it works really well when you have an audience, when you've already got people connected to you, you've got someone that you're talking to. When you're building it, of course, it's a much slower thing to happen because when you're doing that organically, then it's slowly building. You might be reaching a few people here and there. So what you want to be doing is thinking, well, how do I find the people to bring them there in the first place? How do I find them and bring them across to my social media platform to connect with me there and become part of my audience? So we want to be leveraging your time and reaching out to those people, the right people in the places where they're hanging out right now, so that they become aware of you, so that they build some interest and they come across to your platform and connect with you there. The best ways to do this is thinking about where are they already hanging out. Now, you might think, well, they're on Facebook already and I want them on my Facebook page. Okay, but that's thinking very linearly in one line about social media. So I want you to think, well, let's put social media aside for a moment, because what if we don't have a social media presence yet and we want to bring people there and we want to do this without using paid ads? So your people are out there, they're already doing things, they're online every day, there's all sorts of things that they're doing. So there are ways you can connect with them. And the easiest way is to think, who has them already in their audience? So what ways might I be able to connect and get in front of them through somebody who's already got them in their audience? Now, there's so many options when you start to think about this question, because you've got media outlets, the professional media, so radio, TV, magazines, online sites, local sites. There's hundreds. Those people potentially have already got your audience in them, and the best fit for you is where there's a really good crossover. And you might think about people as well. What people do you know who have the same or similar target to you? Now, maybe they're a competitor, or maybe they're not a competitor. They might be somebody who has a very similar, so not a competitor, but they may be somebody who has a complementary business to yours. So it's for the same people, but they're offering something different. What a great collaboration opportunity for you to connect with them and to be able to connect with their audience through them by providing some value. There's so many opportunities for you out there, just a matter of you thinking of them and not trying to do all of them at once. Like, let's not give yourself a game that you can't win at by thinking
thinking you've got to suddenly be out everywhere doing all of this. Pick one, pick two. And that's why it's so much easier when you've got specific about your audience, about who the right people are. When you get specific about them, you can very easily narrow down the opportunities, narrow down the different places that you may connect with them, and choose the right ones for you. Now, another place could be podcasts. So you're listening to a podcast right now, you're part of my audience, and people may come onto my podcast to talk to me and create content, but also to create some awareness and really get in front of this lovely audience here, that is yourselves, that I have created. So podcasts are great. You don't need to have your own one. You can actually be a guest on another podcast. And I did an episode really recently that talked all about how to become a guest on podcasts and gave you some of my insights and some of my best tips on how you get that yes straight away. So go check out that episode because there's a lot in there. Obviously, I love podcasting. It's still very new for me. This is only the first year. However, the just incredible power and value of the conversation, that's so much more than a piece of marketing or promotional marketing that we do. You can have a real valuable conversation and actually get to know somebody through a podcast episode. So I just simply love them. I think it is very much more aligned with us providing that deeper connection and value that we're all looking for in life. People, we want to buy and connect with people who are similar to us, who are going to help us become that person we want to become. And that's why this type of content is so powerful. So I encourage you to do that. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can reach people and bring them into your audience. And that's why I created the free guide, the 12 ways to reach your ideal customer guide, to give you 12 different ideas of ways that you could reach out to them and a little bit of advice on what that might look like, how to do it. So you can download this free guide right now from my website. Go to jessicaosborne.com/12 ways. So 12 ways, and get that free guide. It has in there 12 different ways that you can reach out to your ideal customer, the right people that you're trying to bring into your audience. So it gives you ideas straight away. You don't have to be staring at a blank page thinking, okay, I know what I've got to do, but how do I do it? And what is the best way to do that? That's what this guide is doing, breaking that down for you and giving you, 12 different examples so you can pick and choose what would be the right one for you to try first. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found today's episode valuable and useful. Maybe you're thinking about your audience and what you're doing for your marketing in a slightly different way than you were before, which is exciting. Very exciting. You'll find that once you're intentional, once you're really leveraging what you're doing for the right outcome, it becomes so much easier, because when you have the right people in your audience who have that desire to buy from you already, you're not creating it, you're not coercing them, you're not trying to break down all of their objections and get them into something that they don't actually want. Well, no, these people already want it. Therefore, it's a lot easier just to invite them, make the offer to them and say, hey, I've got this and it can help you do that. Would you like to do it? No, you're not actually doing any sort of hard promo or sales. It is a much nicer, more easier conversation because they are the right people and they already want it. They already want that from you. Beautiful. Okay, lovely people. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or evening, and thanks for listening in. I appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Do you know what the number one challenge reported by the women joining my Facebook community, My Tribe, said that they were struggling with their marketing in 2021, and in fact, even in 2020 as well? And that was exactly how they should reach their ideal client. How do they even get in front of them in order to build their audience in the first place? That was it. And it wasn't a pick and mix. I didn't give them that answer. It was a free text question. So they could write in there anything they wanted at all. And the number of times that I saw somebody say, how to create awareness, how to get in front of my ideal client and build my audience. So many people just challenged by it. And why is that when there's such an abundance of ways that we can get in front of the ideal client? And I think it's probably that is exactly it. It's so overwhelming, isn't it? What should you do? What should you choose? What are the best ways? Whatever it is that you're doing right now might not be working. And I think it's a great time to sit back, reflect, and figure out what's the right way for you to do it. What are the ways that you're going to reach your prospective clients in 2022? So if that sounds like you, if that might have been what you wrote down in the questions on what is your biggest challenge with your marketing currently, then you're going to absolutely love the new freebie that I've just put together for you. It's called 12 Brilliant Ways to Reach Your Ideal Client. And in it, I share with you the 12, in my view, 12 top ways that you could use in your marketing plan this year to reach a bigger, broader audience in order to attract those ideal clients in to your inner circle, into your, really well-defined audience and become real leads for you. So if you'd like to get your hands on this brand new freebie, then all you need to do is go to jessicaosborne.com/12 ways. So it's 12 ways. Very easy. You can download it there, and this is a little bit of great resource for your planning, for the planning of the new year. See what you're going to change up. What is it that you maybe haven't been doing that you could be doing? And what are those things that you've been doing but they're not very effective, and maybe you're going to drop them out of your plan this year? So please head over, grab the freebie. If you want the link, that it's in the show notes. And let's get you moving on up, having more success with your marketing in 2022.